I'm going to go ahead and we've got 16 people joining us. So I'm going to go ahead and let everyone in. Let's see here. And I'm recording, so we're good. Here we go. Hi, everyone.
Steve Mortimer. That's nice.
Welcome. Oh, I see Crystal, Steve. Oh, awesome.
Hello.
Hello, and Margaret.
Hello.
Yeah, welcome.
Thank you.
Yay, it's so good to see you all. Thanks for making, I know this is kind of an interesting time between the holidays and the new year. So thank you all for being here. Elena, oh, it's so good to see you. If folks wanted to drop into the chat their name and where they're joining from, and maybe something they're grateful this holiday solstice season, that would be lovely. And feel free to unmute yourself and say hello as well. Some people prefer to chat. Some people prefer to type it. Anything is welcome. I should be, hold on, let me switch over to everyone. Here we go. Awesome. And we've got Joe. Joe is joining from Philadelphia. Thankful for family time. We don't get enough of that, do we? And Anna joining from Massachusetts. Grateful for the long shadows of midwinter. Beautiful. Yeah, those shadows are going to get shorter soon. Elena in North Carolina. Grateful for our beautiful weather today. Thank you, Elena. And Anita.
Is Stephen Mortimer coming from England?
That's a great question,
Hi, Steve. See ya.
Hey, yeah, cool. Yeah, feel free to unmute yourself and say hello if you'd like.
What time is it in? Yeah, what time is it in England right now?
It's just gone past midnight.
Oh,
wow. Yeah, thanks for.
You're up late.
Yeah, where in England, Steve?
I'm in Essex, which is all 25.
Yeah, I know. I'm from Leicester.
Oh, hello there.
Hi. Did you have a good Boxing Day?
I did, Margaret. Thank you very much. I hope you did as well.
Oh, I love that. That's
There's
great.
one box on Boxing Day?
No, we have boxes. We had the presents on or the servants had their presents on Boxing Day.
The servants. Oh, okay.
Well, yeah, when they did have servants. I didn't.
I didn't.
Thank you
in the good old days, huh?
So we had Boxing Day when we lived in Aruba in the Caribbean when I was a kid, and it was just for giving gifts out to other people who needed them in the community.
Right, and sometimes people say it was in Victorian times when Christmas Day was too holy to have the boxes and all that, so it was delayed till the next day. But you can take your pick which translation you like.
Oh, I love the holiday spirit. The energy behind it is a good one.
I sent I guess I don't do chat, so it didn't come through, but I just said I'm glad of the snow today. We had snow.
Beautiful.
Where is that? Where'd you have the snow?
Oh, DuPage, Illinois. 3 inches.
3
wow.
inches.
Good.
Yes.
Great. And I'll just read these pretty quickly here. We're about 10 minutes in, but we've got Elizabeth from Oregon, Crystal in Denver, Peasley, I don't know if I said that correctly, but Peasley is joining us for the first time. I'm so glad you were able to make it. Joanne from Wisconsin, Ellen in Montpelier. Who's in Montpelier? Ellen? Hi, I'm in Montpelier, Vermont too. Yes. Oh my gosh, we'll have to connect later. That's so wild.
Yes.
Oh, good. Great. Nice to connect with you. Yeah, that's wild. Mike from Connecticut, and let's see here, Scott and Joanna in California. Hello. Terry in Australia. My
Hmm.
goodness, Terry, can we get a wave? Hi, what time is it where you are?
It's tomorrow.
Yeah, it's tomorrow, Wednesday, the 29th at 10 o'clock.
My goodness. Well, thank you. That's wonderful. And then last week, we've got Dave from Washington, D.C. What a great group. Thank you all so much for being here. And yeah, I think there's some new faces. I don't know if anybody wants to give a wave if this is your first time joining. Hi. Yeah. Welcome, everyone. Yeah, a lot of new faces. Wonderful to have you with us. Some old timers and some new energy. Great. Which actually feels appropriate, timely.
From Mexico.
Say that again.
My name is Satish, and I'm from Mexico. I live in Mexico.
Oh my goodness, Satish, welcome.
Great.
Thank you.
What part of Mexico?
Near Pátzcuaro, in a village that's called Tocuaro, near Pátzcuaro in Michoacán.
Ah,
Wow.
oh, good.
Oh my gosh, we are all over
Welcome.
the globe today. I am loving this. Well, great. Well, just welcome. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Mariko. I help out Order of the Sacred Earth, which is founded by Matthew Fox and Skylar Wilson. And Skylar, unfortunately, is unable to be with us today, but sends his love from Florida, where he is with his kids visiting family. And yeah, so the next 50 minutes or so, we'll open with a prayer or some remarks from Matthew. We'll move into some updates, and then we'll have a meditation led by Tom, and then we will go into some council updates, and then we'll close with the prayer. So yeah, for if you're not speaking, if you could just sort of put yourself on mute, but feel free to keep using the chat box. That's great. Encourage you to share links and information and comments and all of that. And then there'll be time for the council updates. When we do that at the end, you can sort of respond to each other and that kind of thing. But we want it to be organic and flowing and alive and rich. So thank you all for being here, and I will turn it over to Matthew to open us up.
Well, thank you, Mariko, and welcome everybody. So much is happening that's going through my head and heart at this time. Of course, the passing of Archbishop Tutu, a really great soul, and now he's an ancestor, and we have every right to call on him as an ancestor, but a beautiful story, his life and his work. And I also think the launching of the Webb telescope on Christmas is pretty darn exciting. And I hope it all happens and comes through. But just the fact that over 1,000 scientists from over 29 countries collaborated on this great project, $10 billion project. But that collaboration is still possible between human beings, and the potential of our learning so much more about the universe, about our origins, is I think very thrilling. And maybe that's things like that are enough to shift the tide and open our hearts and minds up to gratitude and the wonder of our being here at all in this universe, this vast universe. So I think that's very exciting. And of course, they weren't planning on launching it on Christmas. In fact, it was delayed for years, and then months, and then weeks, and even days. They were going to launch it Christmas Eve, but there was too much wind. So I think as a Christian, it's an interesting symbol that, the story of the star that led Magi to the manger. And so here, this is a search for stars, literally the first stars of our universe. And even the scientists who launched it said that this is a search for light, the origins of light. And of course, the whole December season, beginning with Hanukkah, Christmas, Kwanzaa, is all about light. So I think it's nice to have science on board too. And all those thoughts kind of go through me at this time. But also I had a correspondence this past month with Leonardo Boff, the liberation theologian from Brazil. and about his new book that's coming out called Thoughts and Dreams of an Old Theologian. It's got a fun cover to it. He looks very, very wise and pensive. I don't know if you can see this. Yeah, I think it's fun, kind of a fun cover. But he sent me a poem that he had done for Christmas, a very short poem, and I shared it in my daily meditations. But I want to share it with you all because I think it's worth considering, and a nice prayer really to start with, start a meeting with. And also because the issue of the sacred masculine is very much on my mind, because I think the upcoming anniversary of January 6th is an epiphany. It happened on Epiphany of the scurrilous masculine, the unholy masculine, the unsacred and dangerous masculine out of control. So I do think masculinity is a real issue in our survival today. I mean, getting it right, undoing patriarchy's version of masculinity. And so this comes from Leonardo Boff, who is, I'm sure many of you know, fought his whole life for justice as a theologian and took some hits on the chin. He and I were both silenced the same year by the other Vatican, the previous Vatican. And he too, he wasn't expelled. He chose to leave after that, his Franciscan order, and became laicized as a lay Catholic theologian. So anyway, he wrote me and said, "This little reflection I made on the occasion of Christmas," he said, "I thought you might like it." And I wrote back and told him I liked it, I want to share it. And he said, "Go ahead, share it." So here's his little poem. It's very little. Every boy wants to be a man. Every man wants to be a king. Every king wants to be God. Only God wanted to be a boy. I think it's both cute and substantive. You know, that the God I want to worship doesn't want to be a Lord master over anything or anyone. In fact, that's why we have the choices we have, and we make the stupid choices that we do. But that divinity itself wanted to be childlike. And this very much echoes Meister Eckhart's teaching that God is novissimus, the newest thing in the universe, the youngest thing in the universe. And that God is always new, always in the beginning. He says that's why the Bible begins, both Bibles, Christian and Jewish, begin with the phrase "in the beginning," because divinity is always young and always new. And those who tap into that kind of divinity will themselves always be young and always be new. And Eckhart says, I'm younger today than I was yesterday. And if I'm not younger tomorrow than I am today, I'd be ashamed of myself. The whole idea that staying young, not in Hollywood's version of youth, but in the version of the meaning of being young at heart and curious and grateful and being vulnerable to awe on a daily basis, all this is imitating the divine. So that's kind of my little reflection as we get started today. And I'll repeat Boff's poem. Every boy wants to be a man. Every man wants to be a king. Every king wants to be God. Only God wanted to be a boy. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Matthew. It's beautiful and humbling, and I'm thinking about the cyclical nature of things. Thank you for that. And with that, I would love to turn it over to Tom to lead us in a brief or however long earth meditation. So Tom, I think you are unmuted. I think you should be good to go.
I hope that's the case, because I really don't know much about these devices at all.
I can hear you.
I wanted to thank you for that reflection, because I'm 81 years old and I'm trying very hard, as my wife of 60 years, Penny, would tell you to be a boy most of the time. We're going to do a meditation on earth care this evening. I was going to say good evening, but it appears that some of you it's good morning, and others will be middle of the day. But good evening from the mountains of western North Carolina. I live about, my wife and I live about 30 miles south of Schuyler and his new young family. So a meditation on earth care. There's an abundance of information about how rough things are going for Earth's living systems, for the species on Earth. But there are indications that things are not all that bad. I want to share some of that with you tonight. Take a minute, maybe two. I tend to wander. Maybe that comes with being 81 years old. I'm not too sure. I want to share good news with you. I think most of you people are familiar with the term good news. It comes with the religious tradition that at least some of you, I imagine, follow. This is news about a group of saints, people who are not normally identified as saints, but who are definitely saints and who are engaged in giving us real miracles, real verifiable miracles. I know many of these people, these saints. I know some of them are quite spiritual, and others probably haven't really given much time to think of spirit. You won't find them dancing around maypoles or involved in arcane rituals or kneeling before an altar. Generally, you won't anyway.
Hey,
You will
Tom,
find some of them kneeling in the mud. Their ritual.
Tom,
Did
can
you
you?
need to?
Yeah, sorry. It sounds like there's a little bit of static that happens when you speak. I don't know if you have a microphone at all, or can we do just a quick
Let's
sound check?
try. Let me try to take these out, and I'll be out of connection and see if it works better.
Okay, thank you. All right, everyone, just hold,
How about
bear
now?
with us. Oh, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead and say something.
How about now? Did that do it?
I think it might be better.
Okay, let's try it. Just let me finish. Just a minute. Just some
Okay,
thoughts.
perfect. Yeah, that sounds better. Go ahead.
This machine, by the way, is 20 years old. So the rituals that they engage in would be measuring stream flow or checking live traps or counting salamanders or plants or even elephants. They don't wear robes. They don't usually chant sacred verse, but because of them, European bison have been returned to the mountains of Central Europe. Because of them, rhinos or rhinoceros are now back again in Botswana, where they were shot out. And because of them, tiny fish swim in North American desert springs that might otherwise have been turned into housing developments. So these saints are found in many places on earth. They come in all of the colors of humanity and the genders. They're known by a number of different names. One of them, E.O. Wilson, the greatest living naturalist, just passed yesterday. They're called biologists or ecologists, and perhaps the most comprehensive would be conservation biologists. They often work alone. Sometimes they work in groups. Their spiritual field might best be known as earth care. They're sometimes threatened in their work, and sometimes they're lost. They also work with men and women that you might be more familiar with, people called stewards, earth stewards, or rangers, or wildlife officers. More exciting titles, I guess. But they are the true saints of this time, and their calling is to save life on earth. It's what they do. Saints are often associated with miracles. Many miracles can be attributed to these saints. Take that bison I was just talking about. At one time, there were only several dozen throughout Central Europe. Now there are several hundred wandering the valleys and the mountains of that area. The rhinoceros, there were 30 of them just recently shipped from South Africa to Botswana, where they'll be protected, and we hope reestablish herds of rhinoceros. Those little fish I referred to earlier, they continue to live as a tiny window on the evolutionary biology of life on Earth. I had the pleasure of, although my wife would never allow me to be called a saint, but I had the pleasure of working with several species of those fish in the history of my work with life on Earth. What I'm proposing to do, with the permission of the council, I guess, is to talk a little bit at future gatherings of the council on some of the specific miracles that are being achieved by this very particular group of saints. So thank you. I wish you a very, very good New Year. You might think a little bit about Dr. Wilson, E.O. Wilson, and his passing. And I hope we got some of that through to the people who have tuned in here, Mariko. Back to you.
Thank you, Tom. That was wonderful. We'd love to hear more from you on the updates in future council calls. So thank you for sharing that with us today. And so I think we'll just move right on into the next part, which is our council update, which is we basically open it up to all of you to share reflections, what's alive for you. It's a time to share if you're part of a pod. I know there's several new folks, but Order of the Sacred Earth has pods that you can establish. It's pretty free form, and some of the head folks of the pods are on this call. There are some solo practitioners as well as a forming online group. And so this is a time to share, learn from each other, be vulnerable as much as you want to, and just show up as a human, a fellow human on the earth at this time, doing the best that we can to care for the earth and each other. And so I do know that Anita, who alongside Jesse, who is not with us today, they have been working very hard on putting together an online cohort of Order of the Sacred Earth. And I believe they have an update that they would like to share. So I'd love to turn it over to you to kick us off, Anita.
Well, I will try. But since I talked with Skylar and it was sort of planned from what I thought we were going to do is be having a conversation, not just with me, but with other people. So this is shorter because Skylar isn't here and I'm having to wing it. And I'm hoping that it's too winged. So this is not the group that was formed to make recommendations to the council. This is more a possible new and somewhat different kind of group that perhaps takes recommendations and new things and things that have come up and things that we think might be worth looking at. Going over probably a longer period of time, more like Mariko is talking about, and when Skylar asked if I would take part, he actually asked about my being a point person. And I'm not sure that quite works because I don't have full use of my hands. And so I can't do a whole lot of typing. So I think that one of the first things that a group who is gathering might do is think about what the roles are and how we find people who really want to be able to give to the organization, and I would say who may not come as volunteers. I think we're all very used to just asking for volunteers. But one of the things I was talking to Skylar about is what can we learn from what used to be called sociocracy. And he's in Asheville, North Carolina, where one of the latest versions of that is now being called Circle Forward. And it's about how you do circle leadership. So, we were really tossing around the possibility of bringing some of that into the thinking within this, to be able to look at what's been going well and how do we build on it, and what's been going less well and what can we do with that, and maybe where there are actual problems and we need to address them in some new kind of way. So that's kind of where the conversation with Skylar was. I made some notes about what I might say, and I wrote down a quote from Lisa Rankin, who I like a lot. She was a standard allopathic doctor and had a spiritual opening and has really, really changed what she's doing. And her next book is actually called Sacred Medicine. And so she's bringing some of the same things together, so it's very much in the spirit of what we're doing. And what she said is, we must act now to restore all living beings with what is our shared birthright, to be part of an interdependent ecosystem of shared power, healthy boundaries, dignity, respect, appreciation, love, care, and nurturing. And what happened in the prayer group where it sits right now is that there were some misunderstandings. That's why I talked to Skylar. And they came partly because those principles weren't fully being put into place. And so how can we be more fully caring, even if we're dealing with technical things? So that's kind of where we are in terms of receiving what recommendations were made within that short group. And I hope that, if somebody really feels called here, or somebody listening to the recording, to come, I will go ahead and put my name as a contact right now, but hopefully somebody else will share that with me who can do better with hands, because that involves typing. But I'll put it in for the moment. So if somebody really feels called, but there may be people that in your pods who have come here, who might be out listening. Well, that would be a kind of a volunteer thing, but you might know someone else who would not normally volunteer. And I think it's very important to open the invitation to those people who might have a tendency to hold back more, but might have wonderful things to share and to be part of a group that really works together with each other, as circle leadership. So are there any questions that anybody has for me right now that I might be able to do a quick answer for? Anybody? I don't see any hands. Okay, well, I'll put my name there. I prefer actually getting on and talking rather than doing everything in writing. So know that I'm open to that as well. Oh, there's a hand from Johan. Or Johanna?
Hi, it's Johan. Hi, Anita.
Johan, hi.
We're new. This is Scott. I'm Johan. And I don't know if this is the good time for this question, but I'm curious. We're in California.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm curious of the pods, how many pods exist? And are there any in our area?
Well, that's not really a question for me, though that kind of information is very much the kind of thing that I would like to be dealing with, to actually look is what shape the group is in and how many pods are there and where are they. And so, Mariko, is there that kind of information now being gathered?
Sure. Yeah, that we put a lot of energy into that last year. And the reality of the pods is they ebb and flow because of the open nature of it and the sort of self-selecting and stepping in. anybody is able to make a pod. What's so fabulous about like the Order of the Sacred Earth and the way that it's designed is that you can relate to it as much as you want. You can self-design. And then there's a book if you'd like to read it. It's on our website. I don't know if a little plug there. And it basically culminates in a ceremony of vow taking. And of course, vows are incredibly personal. And so the pods are a group of people. And so far, they have been geographically local to each other. And we have pods all over the world. And so we do have a landing page on our website that has the beginnings of what we call the GPS, our global pod synergies. And so basically, it was the foundation to hopefully connecting everybody. As you see on the call today, we have somebody from Mexico, from Australia, from the UK, all over. And I think what Anita is speaking to is this challenge that we have as a global group. How do we connect all of these people that are kind of not siloed, but again, like potted in their individual places, doing the things that they are? How do we link them up in a way that they're able to communicate and we can sort of step forward as a whole global council, working for the earth as earth stewards, as lovers and defenders of the earth. And I don't think that there is an answer to that question. I don't think there's an easy answer to that, which is why I am so grateful for Anita for bringing that up here, because I think it will take many ideas and voices and creative folk of all abilities to be able to step in and say, hey, this works for me, or this doesn't work for me. Have we thought about it like this or that? So convoluted way of saying, yes, we do have a landing page with pods. Yes, there are definitely pods out in California. You can send me an email or drop your email into the chat and I can follow up with you. And you're also welcome to start your own pod. So you've got a whole sampler of where you could go with that. You could join the online pod or formings of the online pod. So yeah, hopefully that explained a little bit.
Thank you. Yes, that's a lot. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I don't think I have anything more right now. We could go on.
Yeah, great. Well, thank you, Anita, and thank you for the question and welcome everyone. And so we've got until around 7:50. So the next, was it 15 minutes or so to keep the dialogue going. And again, open circle, anything that's alive for you right now. Just be mindful of the time that we have together, but knowing how many people are on the call. But I encourage everyone to share something that's alive with them, for them.
Rico, just a quick question. Do you
Sure.
feel that the COVID crisis has altered the scene and affected it, if you will, for making pods? Because when we began, of course, a pod was an in-person gathering of people, but as COVID kind of pushed people more online like this to a more Zoom or electronic version of pod, is that your understanding from studying the various pods?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, I'd love to hear from the rest of the council too, but I think across the board, we've seen a huge migration of people seeking community, moving online because of the lack of connection we've had in person. And I'm seeing some nods and encourage you all to open up and share. Maybe this is a great time to say, like, what has worked for you in COVID, in connection, in finding community, and what hasn't, and what ways can we be serving each other? I know there were a few calls that I had in the beginning of the pandemic time, but my call with you, Elena, that one, that was really one of my first powerful Order of the Sacred Earth one-on-one, or small group calls, and felt really connected, even though we were, states apart. But I felt renewed in my excitement for this work. And yeah, less alone. Yeah. But if anybody has thoughts around online communities, yeah, feel free to share them.
So I would say that I still haven't connected with an online pod. When we started working on the idea of having, another platform to be able to get together, part of it was because Jesse and I had met through this, and, had what I was calling a deeper conversation. And so we thought of, having a platform that would be able to help people meet for just that sort of thing, just in one-on-one or in very small groups, which could be themed, could go on longer or shorter, and the possibility also of having a platform for online pods. So that's what I know about. So it sounds from Mariko like there may be something else too, and we haven't quite been able to bring them together yet. But we're working on it, and that's what we're really inviting people in to also be part of at this point, helping that happen.
I love that. Oh, go ahead, Elizabeth, please.
I'm happy to share about this question, tying into Tom's opening meditation and also Matthew's words, really inviting this sense of wonder and very pragmatic stewardship, and then the form, this tension between medium and message, or medium and actual substance. And I am working on a project called Dream Fruit, and its whole purpose is to inspire this deeper radical belonging. And yet here we are in this kind of screen mediated situation. And I guess I just want to name it the thing that we all know, which is this: how do we remember that this is a very real life that we are in, that we are actually in organic connection with one another here on this funny little flat screen thing, all that, and so I just feel like this kind of breathing challenge between the great world, this cosmic reality, and then this very, pragmatic tool that can become really heady, really wordy, really mental, and and how to keep that sense of relationality, relatedness with one another, but also, of course, this deeper relatedness with the living, breathing earth, and not getting too conceptual about. Anyway, I just feel like that is just alive inside this particular conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Appreciate you sharing that reflection. Joe.
Okay.
And then Margaret.
Thank you. There's a group in Illinois that in the fall I was just able to link up with. It's called Sustain DuPage, and we have an organic garden which everybody pitches in. We go they go twice a week, I go once a week. And whatever needs doing, we do it. And which is, of course, cultivating and picking, getting crops. In fact, I brought home, sometimes we're given some of the things. I brought home green tomatoes at the end of the season and made chutney. So if, that's like pickle, if anybody likes a green tomato chutney. Let me know. Thank you.
Yum. I will go ahead and pass it over to Joe. Thank you, Margaret.
Margaret, if you want to post your email, I'll ask you for a recipe.
Oh,
I don't think I'm close enough to you to taste your chutney.
Unfortunately, I'm very old. I'm 86 and I don't do all the tech stuff, so I don't know how to put into the chat. but somehow I'll try and get it to you. Thank you.
I've only been really active for the past 6 months. 6 months ago, I joined the local green team, and then 2 months ago, a month and a half ago, I joined here. And I confess I'm not maybe a very good mystic. I am wrestling with terrible impatience because I've been doing research online and I'm just beginning to get the slightest glimpse of how much there is that can be done and how much there is that needs to be done. And the local green team plods really slowly, and I can't, hook up with people who can help me. I mean, I've been doing things in my own lifestyle that, cut out plastics and all that business, but there is so much more, and I want to do so much more. And partly that's me not being centered. But it's also recognition of the need, the magnitude of the need. So I'm just putting it out there. Maybe people can help me do my deep breathing, or maybe people can plug me into information and networking and where I can actually make more of a contribution. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. I laughed pretty hard when you said that. Coming back to the deep centering, I think about that a lot, how activists and stewards often feel this pressure, especially in this sort of pressured time we are in currently, at the end of the year, at the end of the fiscal year, between the new year, this year and next year, and all of the pressures that we face. So I know that this is a very wise counsel, and I'm sure there's a lot of resources and ways to help you with that. So encourage folks to connect, and I'd be happy to send some things along as well. So thank you. Wishing you many, many deep breaths.
Mariko?
Yeah, Tom, is that you?
Yes, it's me. I'm glad that you can hear me. I've got a weak connection here, but Joe and some of the others who might be interested in connecting with folks who can help them play in the mud and maybe do some substantive work. If you can post my email, I can get that information to them immediately.
Great. Thank you, Tom. I'll make sure. I think I saw Joe's email, so I will include, Tom, I will include your email when I respond to Joe. So
anyone who wants that. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. I'm appreciating this still moment. And I'm noticing in myself that as facilitator, I'm also a little bit holding my breath. Is anybody going to say something? And I trust that people will lean in if they would like to say something. And I'm also sort of leaning into that uncomfortable edge a little. And so I will offer, we have until 7:55 when we have a closing prayer. So I will offer, maybe the next, little while for us to just take a deep breath and maybe kind of ground in. And like Joe is saying, it's so busy. And,
I would like to affirm the other side of Joe's remarks, and that is impatience. I'm glad you're impatient. I hope we're all impatient. To me, that's part of spirituality, is knowing patience and impatience, and knowing the difference between the two, and the art of drawing in the breath, as you say, to to remain centered and calm as far as possible. But you know, impatience is holy too. And so I'm glad you're impatient. I would be disturbed if people are content today, because whether in our relationship to the earth and other creatures, these great stories Tom told about these saints of our time, wonderful way of seeing this. And we should be naming these people just like you did, Tom, and creating a litany or a wall for them. You know, we have these walls for these people who die in wars, but for those who are still fighting for good cause and working out of a holy impatience, you know, I think that's so important. So I just want to say that spirituality is not just about patience, it's also about the impatience, and it's not just about order, it's all about confusion. It's also about confusion and chaos and kind of, you know, making our way through it and not going into denial. I think a lot of the denial today is the fear of chaos, and you know, and a lot of the rise of authoritarianism and all this. I think that's part of our times too, that some souls can't you know, kind of have to deliver themselves to some Führer or some authoritarian person who will answer the complex questions of our time, or the impatience of our time. So I just kind of want to affirm that impatience is just as spiritual as patience, and sometimes it's more. So I don't want to fall into the trap of misdefining what spirituality is. And I honor your impatience.
I'm Maureen from Nebraska, and I've never been a part of the Order of the Sacred Earth. I don't know why I got the email, but I was really pleased that I did. I'm belong to Nebraska Interfaith Power and Light, and I work with a group called Elders for the Earth. So the whole connection there, of course, is caring for the earth. And one of the things that I'm hoping to embark on, I live near Lincoln, Nebraska, and is a study of the Pope's encyclical Laudato Si, Care for Our Common Home. So I'm pulling together a group, a very small group of people, and I'm thinking we'll just do a study of it and see where that goes. But I wondered if anybody had any input on that. We'll meet in a couple of weeks, and just not sure what direction or how we're going to do that.
Well, I wrote a commentary on that that's on my webpage. It's for free. And I show how it's very much developed around the 4 paths of creation spirituality. And that, I think that's a great way to look at it, because you can pull out a lot of the wisdom that's there. And there is a lot there. Brian Swim, the cosmologist, says it's far and away the best scientific document ever to come out of the Vatican in all of history. Not that the competition is that great, because the condemnation of Galileo and the burning of Giordano Bruno at the stake and all that came out of the Vatican too. But anyway, it's a significant document. I'm glad you're doing that. But my article may help you with kind of a methodology to approach it. So you might take a look at that. Yeah.
Thank you. The Diocese of Lincoln is a little difficult to break through, and that's part of the dilemma. Actually, the Protestant churches, I think, embrace the Laudato Si much more than our Catholic churches here.
Yeah. Wow.
So yeah, I've been praying about it and hoping to find a good program. But thank you. That'll be wonderful to check that out.
Mm-hmm. Actually, the author who wrote about 80% of it is a graduate of our master's program in creation spirituality, Sean McDonough. And then Leonardo Boff, who we began with today, he wrote 5 or 10% of it too. On especially the part on connecting the suffering of Mother Earth and the suffering of the poor today, that we're treating Mother Earth like we've been treating the poor. That's his main point from Boff, and the Pope very much signed on for that too. And I think it's very important to understand that, you know, there's a direct relationship between the habits we've built up in ignoring the poor and discounting them, and or ignoring Earth and discounting Mother Earth.
Matthew, Terry here from Australia. Thank you. I wondered, would it be possible for you to post the text of the poem that you read to us and the author? I think that was just profound. And also, I've noticed in your speaking, you talk a lot about the patriarchy and the masculine, feminine energies in terms of the divine, the kind of cosmic. And I'm just wondering where I could go to read some more about your perspective on that.
Yeah, well, I've been dealing with it in my daily meditations. You just go on daily meditations with Matthew Fox quite a bit the last month or two, and I'm going to get heavier into the sacred masculine now. But my book, the Hidden Spirituality of Men, 10 Metaphors to Awaken the Sacred Masculine, that's certainly part of what I have to offer. And the last chapters are on the sacred marriage of the feminine and the masculine. And of course, my point is that all of us have the feminine and the masculine in us. Yeah. And the feminine has been coming forward, I think, strongly in my lifetime, but the masculine has been behind. And I think mainly because patriarchy, which is not masculine, it's a distortion of the masculine. It's a philosophy of life that is more reptilian brain, testosterone driven than it should be. And so I think that many boys have been raised to be men in that context, and it's not a healthy masculinity. Again, I think it's what we Americans saw on January 6th, and you may have seen it in Australia too. But I think it is, in many ways, this patriarchal version of masculinity is coming, I think, to a climax in our time. And it's kind of, you know, where are we going to go from here? So I think that a big part of redeeming humanity, if we're going to survive, is coming to a healthier version of masculinity and a more present version of the feminine. For example, who's defining education? And you know, education is so lacking in value emphasis in America anyway, that Einstein said, quote, "I abhor American education," unquote, precisely because it's not carrying values. And so I love something I've been talking about lately. The Hildegard of Bingen really put me onto it. But if you go to Webster's dictionary and look up virtue, it's incredible the words that come through. Because of course the word virtue comes from the word vir, which is Latin for man. So Webster's actually says virtue is virility, it's strength, it's manliness. Goes on, and these mystics say that. Not only Hildegard Aquinas says virtue is the divine power in us, and so forth. So it's the positive power, it's the healthy masculinity, and of course it's in women as well as men. And just as the toxic masculine, women have been breathing in, and some of them are carrying it very heavy, along with men today. So, you know, I think those are all areas where I'm swimming in these days. But I do think it's really foundational. And you being from Australia, I'm sure you're picking up how they're in Southeast Asia, they're uncovering all these new versions of hominids, you know, on a regular basis, almost daily or something. And of course, we all know about Neanderthal, but they were European, so to speak. Well, now there are all these others coming up. But to me, the lesson in following this anthropology today is that these are our cousins. They're all extinct. We're the only hominid left. And we're this close to extinction. I really think we have to put our struggle in that context, that it's as likely that we'll go out of business as the Neanderthal, all these others that they're just discovering and putting names on as fast as they can. We had all these kissing cousins, and they're all gone. We're the only ones standing, and I just think that kind of has a power to wake some of us up and shake some of us up, because the stakes are plenty high today, and there's much more going on than the daily headlines. There's a survival issue, and I feel absolutely that if we can't get the gender balance back in some healthy way, we're done, period.
Absolutely. Yep. Nothing more important in our time, I don't think.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
You bet. I'll try to type up this tiny poem while others are talking. Talk too much.
I love that conversation. Oh, go ahead, Terry.
If I've got it right, Matthew, I can perhaps save you the time. Every man wants to be a boy. Every boy wants to be a man. Every man wants to be a king. Every king wants to be a god, but only God wants to be a little boy.
There you go. You got it.
Is that it?
That's it.
Nicely done.
Who wrote it?
Leonardo Boff, B-O-F-F, liberation theologian from Brazil.
Okay, I'll type it up and put it in the chat to save you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Terry. Really loving the conversation and the balance. And I'm also noticing the time. We are at our hour. I do have a quick poem it's a poem, and I will read it quickly. But thank you all so much for taking the time to be with us today for this hour. I know you're joining from many different places. It's a busy time of year between solstice, the holidays, and the new year. So thank you for choosing to spend this hour with us. And in honor of the solstice, I'm going to read a poem called Blessing for the Longest Night by Jan Richardson. All throughout these months, as the shadows have lengthened, this blessing has been gathering itself, making ready, preparing for this night. It is practiced walking in the dark, traversing with its eyes closed, feeling its way by memory, by touch, by the pull of the moon, even as it wanes. So believe me when I tell you, this blessing will reach you, even if you have not light enough to read it. It will find you, even though you cannot see it coming. You will know the moment of its arriving by your release of the breath that you have held so long, a loosening of the clenching of your hands, of the clutch around your heart, a thinning of the darkness that had drawn itself around you. This blessing does not mean to take away the night, but it knows its hidden roads, knows the resting spots along the path, knows what it means to travel in the company of a friend. So when this blessing comes, take its hand, get up, set out on the road you cannot see. This is the night when you can trust that any direction you go, you will be walking toward the dawn. And that is a poem by Jan Richardson, Blessing for the Longest Night.
Thank you, Maria.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. Really appreciate it. Feel free to type things into the chat, be in touch via email, and we will continue to have these monthly council calls on the last Tuesday of every month. The link is the same, and if you have any questions between now and then, reach out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everybody.
Happy New Year.
Happy New
Yeah.
Year, everyone. Thank you. Blessings.
Very much.
Mary, Mary. No, so good to see everyone.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So long.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you, Crystal. Good to see you.
Good to see
Nice
you.
tree behind you there. Fire going and
Oh, I
everything.
know.
Looks very cozy.
I know, you
Colorado
have to come
cozy.
visit.
How
You
much
have to
snow you
come
got? You got a lot of
Yeah.
snow?
No, we're good. Maybe tomorrow. No, then the next day.
Oh, okay. They're
Maybe
probably
we'll have a
sending
little
it your way. Yeah, the Rockies here are setting records for snow. Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's coming your way, I'm sure. You will.
Happy New Year.
Yeah,
Happy New Year.
you will.
Great.
Thank you, Mariko.
Yeah, thanks everyone.
And Sati,
Bye,
so
Mariko.
good to
Thank
have
you
you
so
from
much.
Mexico.
Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely.
Matthew.
Thank you.
Peace to you.
All right. Bye. I'm going to close the recording now. Thank you. Have a good night. Blessings.
Buenas noches.
Buenas noches.